When SpaceX started, I think the first 3 rocket launches weren't successful.
Yeah.
And the fourth one was. What would have happened if the fourth one hadn't worked?
We would have failed. Yeah.
But let's talk about one of the failures were spectacular. I would go out to the island, Kwajalein with Elon, and seeing giant exploding rockets is quite an amazing sight. And I was one of the early investors in SpaceX, and I said, you know what? If all I get to do is to see these rockets explode, it's well worth every dime I put into this company.
There's something to be said about brotherly support.
But it was an amazing thing to watch what Elon had built with those rockets on a shoestring in the middle of nowhere, and literally the middle of the Pacific, 2,000 miles from Hawaii. That experience, we'd fly in these what are they called? What are those
Hueys?
helicopters? Hueys. You're flying the Hueys. You feel like you're right out of Apocalypse Now, flying to Dr. Evil's island. Really amazing. And again, worth every penny, still to this day, I'd say. So I think the failures were actually unbelievably exciting to be part of.
Rule number 2, keep looking for new opportunities with Kevin O'Leary.
I was working once at an ice cream parlor when I was about 15 years old, my first real job. And on the second day, I was asked to scrape the gum off between the Mexican tiles on the floor. And I said to the woman who owned the store, it was called Magoo's Ice Cream Parlor, you didn't hire me to scrape gum, you hired me to scoop ice cream. And there's this girl in the shoe store across the way that's looking at me, I don't want her to see her scraping the gum. And she said, what are you talking about? I own this store, I'll do anything I want with you. Get down on your knees and scrape that gum. And I said, I'm not doing it. She said, you're fired. Last job I ever had. I owe that woman everything. I don't like to work for people. Many of you in here, I hope, inherit that. There's nothing wrong with it, but if you want to control your own destiny, you work for yourself. That's how it works. I'm trying to inspire those of you who are on the tipping point. Take the chance, you're young. Go for it. There's nothing better than being able to wake up in the morning 10 years or 20 years from now and do whatever you like. It's about freedom. That's what matters. I'm not saying being an employee is bad, but believe me, being an entrepreneur is better. I'm a little biased.
Rule number 3, be willing to be misunderstood with Jeff Bezos.
We would be very naive to believe that we're not going to be criticized. I mean, that's just part of the terrain. You have to accept that. One thing I tell people is if you're going to do anything new or innovative, you have to be willing to be misunderstood. If you can't afford to be misunderstood, then for goodness sake, don't do anything new or innovative.
Rule number 4, use the 95-5 rule with Tim Ferriss.
You know, the 95-5 rule, there are no spare, 95% of everything we do is right every day in business. But look for the 5% you do wrong, and that's what makes you better than everybody else. There are no spare customers, okay? It's a competitive world in every one of our businesses. Take no out of your damn vocabulary. You're on a business trip, and it's 11:02. You hang up the phone and on a call, and you call down to order some breakfast, and they say, I'm sorry, sir, we don't serve breakfast anymore. I say, that's okay, no problem. I don't need a waffle or an Eggs Benedict. Just throw a couple eggs in a skillet and send them up scrambled, however it's easy for you to do. I'm sorry, sir, we don't serve breakfast. Why are you telling me no? I didn't ask you for anything special. You're going to throw a burger in the pan, just throw me a couple of eggs and take care of me. You're in the hospitality business, okay? And you're telling me no. And everybody's in the hospitality business no matter what they do. You take care of your customer, okay? You take care of your customer. It's no different than we walk in and your people meet us polite. You put a welcome up on the screen. You come in here, everybody, can I get you some water? Tell me, can I do this for you? You're in the service business.
Everybody
so why
is.
do you want to be an ass and say no to somebody when it's just as easy to say yes, or you just give an alternative?
Because the company's being run by somebody who's not.
Also, if you want to have more confidence and self-love, check out my 254 series. They're free. The links to join are in the description below.
The stress primarily comes from not taking action.
You work for yourself. That's how it works.
The only thing that stops you from getting what you want in life is the bullshit story you tell yourself.
Rule number 5, be resourceful with Damon John.
When you were, again, in the early days, at one point you only had 10 shirts. How did you utilize the power of broke to get the word out?
So, when Jay Abraham, who, is really my mentor, he loves to say OPM is other people's manufacturing, manpower, marketing, mentors, and you can make money off of other people's mistakes. And I took inventory of myself, and I knew I wanted to get into this area of business, but my inventory was that my liabilities were I knew nothing about manufacturing, but my assets were that everybody was shooting these little videos around the neighborhood. They weren't like these big Diddy videos at $1 million. I mean, this was like, guy with a little camcorder or something. And I knew that these people they needed clothing. And when they would have the Nike send stuff to them, Nike didn't appreciate them. So I would go to the set and see an LL Cool J, and I would sit on the set 18 hours. I get kicked off with 3 or 4 of those sets. But the one time that somebody allowed me to put a shirt on them, I'd put a shirt on them, and then I would take it back. And I would keep putting on different rappers and I'm taking it back. And I made sure that I didn't dry clean these things. So they made sure they gave them back because they stank, right? So I knew that.
You gave some stanky ass shirts.
Yeah, I gave them some stanky ass shirts. You goddamn right. Now,
I love it.
but these videos started to rotate, and corporate America didn't understand the power of videos at that time. And I started to become known as a huge clothing company. Meanwhile, I'm still a waiter in Baldwin, Long Island, and I have these 10 little stinky T-shirts in my basement. But I was doing something I loved. I would have went on those video sets for free. I was talking to a video chick. I was eating the free food over there. I was watching Old Dirty Bastard, Be Old Dirty Bastard. So, I would have paid to be on those sets.
Yeah.
I was doing something I loved.
Rule number 6, pay attention to history with Mark Cuban.
When you have a good idea, right? You ask your friends, you ask for feedback around, you say, oh, I'm all excited, it's a great idea.
Right.
My friends like it, I can't find. What do you do next? You go to Google, right? And you put it in there and you say, it's this, and you find 50 different keyword searches, and you say, there's nothing there. Right? Wow, it must be a great idea, no one else is doing it. Wrong. The reason there's nothing there is the 15 people who did it before you are out of business, their web servers are down and they're not indexed anymore. And there's no sense of history in a lot of the things that are happening, because, and particularly with mobile apps, because there's no real web there. There's like a one-page web setup that directs you to the mobile app. There's nothing indexed in the app. And so a lot of 50 different people are doing the same app. And, and because you can't get a URL, it's, the XX app, right? And it's XXX app, and it's hard to find the comparables, and it's hard to learn from the history of it. And so it's, whether it's Google, whether it's Facebook, the real challenge right now in starting a company is you can't learn from history because all the history's gone. And us old at least have that. Maybe it holds us back, and maybe, it's the worst thing that can happen is, being, ignorant of what happened might, is probably better in a lot of cases, but sometimes it's not. And so I think that's one of the biggest challenges that entrepreneurs face today, that there's no history to really go back to look at.
Rule number 7, play to win with Dan Pena.
You stop playing to win and you start playing not to lose. Like an Army-Navy game. You're up 18-6 at halftime. You lose momentum. The game ties at 18-18 by the end of the fourth quarter, and you lose in overtime because you stop playing to win the second half and you start playing not to lose. It's the same in business. Because you start worrying about the few pennies that you made and you start to sit on them like a mother hen. Most of the men and women in this room that have been in business stopped playing to win long ago. And they started playing not to lose.
Rule number 8, Maintain your ethics with Jordan Belfort.
Often you think when you're younger, or even when you're older, if you haven't had this lesson taught to you the hard way, is that I can be half pregnant when it comes to ethics. In other words, I can be ethical, but maybe I could step over the line once and get away with it. The problem with that is that when you step over the ethical line once, your line of ethics moves a bit. So next time you step over, you'll step a bit further over the line.
That's such a good point.
Further. So with me, you know, I became desensitized to essentially right and wrong behavior. And it's very easy on Wall Street when a lot of people, as we found out in 2007, it wasn't just me, it was everyone.
Oh, but 50 times bigger than what you were doing. Some of these guys cost a lot of people money.
The point is, I always say, everyone's doing it. That's no excuse for me doing it. I did what I did, it was wrong. But the point was, it's very easy to point and say, well, everyone's doing it. So you have to...
That's such a good point.
You have to maintain your ethics. You really do. There's no...
How do you do that?
It's very simple. It really is very simple. You just don't take the first step.
Got it.
That's it. And that's the secret. There's no way you can't like just take a step and dabble and then be a good person. It's very, very hard.
Rule number 9, specialize with Patrick Bay-David.
When companies get bigger, they all of a sudden want to be everything to everybody, right? Well, we're going to sell this, and 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 we're going to sell this. No problem. Let them do it. That's when you catch up. Because for you, you let Goliaths generalize, you specialize. You specialize. You specialize in one area. Let them generalize. And then when they're generalizing, they're growing like this, but you're growing like this. And then you catch up when you're specializing. Then all of a sudden, boom, you decide at that moment what things to pivot, but you got to catch up. In order to catch up to your guy or gal that you're competing against, you got to specialize. Don't get caught up trying to be everything to everybody and sell every single product.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is be the most dependable person with Grant Cardone.
I would tell my 25-year-old self, dude, do whatever you have to do to make sure you don't ruin your name. You have to be the most dependable person anybody knows. Starting with yourself, you have to be the person you depend on, okay? So if smoking weed on the weekends or drinking or having hangovers or hanging out with those people, like, makes you feel less about yourself, you have less trust for yourself, you gotta knock those things off. When this is done, maybe make a list. No, make a list. Don't maybe. Make a list of things that you need to knock off that destroy your own personal sense of trust in yourself. This is a big thing that I did when I was 25. I started doing whatever I told somebody I would do, I was gonna do. If I told you I was gonna punch you in the mouth, I'd punch you in the mouth right then. Okay, if I told you I was gonna be there at 4 o'clock, I'd be there early. If I told you I was gonna stay late, I would stay late. Whatever it was, I started building trust back within myself, because the reality is nobody was gonna trust me. I had destroyed so much trust and respect with others and told them over and over again, oh, it's gonna be different this time. So old 25-year-old Grant, rebuild the trust you have in yourself and keep doing that until other people start saying, hey, you changed. You're different now. And that started happening literally within about 3 to 6 months of me starting to make that commitment to say, hey, I'm gonna start rebuilding my own personal trust in myself. My personal self-esteem came up. I wasn't using drugs anymore. I wasn't using alcohol anymore. I wasn't going out on the weekends. I was working when my friends were playing.
Now I've got a special bonus rule on how to live in the trenches with Gary Vaynerchuk that I think you're gonna enjoy. But before that, it's time for the 3-point landing questions. Let's go from just watching a video to taking action. Here we go. Question number 1, how can you be the most dependable person to someone this week? Number 2, where do you need to better specialize? And number 3, how can you maintain your positivity today?
One of the great reasons my company does well is there's not a single person that works at VaynerMedia that does the work more than I do. As the CEO of my company, there's not one employee that works for me that produces more content, deploys more ads. Like, I'm living in the trenches. I'm a practitioner. I'm in meetings sometimes with the platforms where I'm correcting their mistake of what their platform can do.
If you want to see the 7 lessons from billionaire entrepreneurs, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
You should never feel comfortable. You should be happy and dissatisfied.
Too many of you are sitting around waiting to feel ready.